So tonight we have double the pleasure. We have two guys over here. I'm one.
I'm saying two.
Tim Jones on the left and Rocky Shockley on the right. And Rocky is not a nickname. That is his real God-given name.
It is my legal name. I was destined for this. I didn't have a choice.
And these are guys who have hiked all over the place here and collaborated on a book on some of the hidden things you can see when you walk around in the Pikes Peak region. And when we got his biographies, I'm really impressed with Tim. He is one of the people who have summited all 14 years in the state.
I was younger then.
So was I.
But these are guys with varied backgrounds and very good friends, and they're going to tell us all about easy hikes to the hidden pass.
All right. Well, thanks for coming out today, Rocky and
having
Tim.
us. Absolutely.
My name is Rocky. Really, I swear. When I retired my grown-up job, I got a job as a ranger and hiking guide on top of a mountain. After I did that for a few years, and I retired again, and now I volunteer leading guided hikes. And I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. I love getting out there. I've been hiking all my life, and so now I do it for fun instead of trying to fit it in between work job. I can just do it. Retirement's all it's cracked up to be.
I came out with my family when the kids were young in 1991, and we just threw ourselves from Southern California. Anyone else from Southern California? Don't put that hand up too high. And with the kids, just threw ourselves into the Colorado outdoor lifestyle with hiking and camping and fishing. And then I'm a list checker-offer. Is that the right word? I'm a writer. I just said checker-offer. And so, a bucket list, thanks. So summited all the 14ers, started on the Colorado Trail, finished the Colorado Trail, and so I just love the outdoors, and met this guy and found out that you can take hikes and make wonderful discoveries in this area of historic relics. So that's my new checklist.
How long did it take you to do the trail?
Over several years, we did it in the 28 segments in several a summer or something like that. So, and then look, he has this little display, and I noticed when he built this, I'm wearing the same hat except for one photo in every single photo. I brought that hat tonight because I thought you would enjoy seeing it. I've been wearing the same hat for 30 years. It's an OR, and I bring my own shade with me, and it has a back that comes down so the water and the rain comes off. So I love this hat, and I thought you might enjoy it too.
I didn't realize until I started going through the pictures, and I had to ask him about that. It's the same hat. All right. Well, Tim has a tie to the mining industry.
I do,
He's a
and
mogul.
I had kind of forgotten about it. This goes back to 1997, and I talked to Rocky about it. He says, "Do you think you could find that?"
Did you
Brought
buy it?
that tonight too. I have props.
Oh,
Yeah,
you did. Careful, it's worth money.
I own, or at least I one time owned, 500 1/millionths of a share in the Strong Gold Mine in Victor. And so this is the original certificate. I think Rocky did some research. I think it's been sold now 3 times. It's still open, I think still operational, and they do tours there as well, I think maybe once a year. But here's my gold mining certificate, so I need to do some research on that. I'm sorry I didn't have that ready tonight. If I did, maybe I could have invited everybody to dinner because of the value of $19.97 now. I don't know.
You could have retired early. I also have a distant connection to the mining industry. I grew up in Colorado. My stepdad mined the South London mine up in Alma. They had a little cabin right on the main street of Alma. My sister still owns the land that had that little cabin. His father owned a little mine next to South London. Don't know how that turned out. He passed away a long time ago, but seeing as how they lived in that little cabin, I can kind of guess. But that was my tie, so it's still fun to go up there. Where Tim and I met, has anybody been to Cloud Camp?
Yay! Did I drive you up there?
We didn't drive.
No,
Or drove.
but no, I was a driver. I'll explain that in a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we met. He was a driver. He drove the Cadillac up there, and I was the a ranger and the lead hiking guide for 5 summers. I did it one summer just for fun. I loved it so much I kept going back. So prior to that, is anybody familiar with the Cheyenne Lodge up on the summit of Cheyenne Mountain? That was up there, I think it closed in the 60s. But that's what used to be up there. It's a beautiful old lodge, closed down, and they built a new one. But it was a lot of fun. So we got together driving up in the down the mountain. He would shuttle me up there before daylight. I would go up and hoist the flag and build the fire, and then he'd go down and shuttle people. We never would have seen the place if we didn't work there, because it's anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 a night. So,
Yeah, and I should
that's
tell
the only way
you
we'd ever see it.
how pleased I was to meet Rocky, and we immediately connected, and we both loved the outdoors and both hiked. But we're the, shall we say, more mature employees up there. A lot of college kids for the summer and that kind of thing. So I would drive mornings and evenings, taking both guests up the road there above the zoo, as well as staff. And so when I would be taking staff down, I always hoped it was Rocky who would hurry out first and sit in the front seat with me so we could talk on the way down. It's a half an hour drive, because I think the young kids just thought I was a bus driver or something, but Rocky actually talked to me. And that's when we really connected.
We were on the same level because we had seniority, even though we hadn't been there that long.
So is it still there now?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, it sure is. Have you ever been up to the Will Rogers Shrine?
Yeah, I've been there.
When you go to Will Rogers Shrine, once you go to the end of the parking lot, there's a locked gate. At that locked gate, 16 more dirt switchbacks, and that'll take you up to the summit.
Mm-hmm.
In the summertime, if you ever look up, there's a little flag sitting right up on top of the mountain. There's all the antennae on the south, and a little point with a little flag up there. That's the one that I would raise every morning.
Mm-hmm.
The best commute in the world.
The Broadmoor has 3 wilderness camps, and Cloud Camp being the one closest to the springs here.
Yeah. So as we were driving, we would talk about what we're interested in, both interested in hiking. He's the real hiker, and I was interested in hiking and history. And he saw a blog site that I had on local history, and he said, he's written 5 books. I've written one, this one, with him. But he said that would make a great book.
And you said?
No. No. But he talked me into it, and it was a painful process, but it was a lot of fun
Well, and
researching.
getting to know each other and learning more about his love of the outdoors, and especially as it ties into the history of the region. Visited his blog site and said, "This is wonderful." And would you consider, partnering together to make a book? So that blog site's still there. I've got cards over on the table here. If you scan the code on the back here, it'll take you directly to the blog site, and you'll get far more history stories on that blog site of this region than you'll get tonight. So plan on visiting Rocky's blog site. It's wonderful. It convinced me that there was a book in there.
I took an educator up a hike above Mount Manitou Incline, because there's a lot of history up there. Everybody that climbs the incline turns around and goes down, but there's a lot of history. And so I was taking her through there, and she was going to teach her class about what I taught her. And she said, you have so much in your head, you need to put it in paper before you die. Thanks for putting it that way, but she was right. So that's how I started the blog, and then he found that, and it went from there.
Well, and I should add to the genesis or the inauguration of this. In the summertime, I drove for the hotel to the wilderness camps. In the wintertime, I was a camp caretaker. There were no guests at that time, no staff, and so I was just there by myself. And sometimes these shifts were 7 days, as much as 14 days. So I got a little lonely up there, except for Junebug the barn cat at Emerald Valley Ranch. And so I said, Rocky, come up and let's have a brainstorm on this. He brought the biggest sub sandwich and a Coke. I've never had anything that tasted so good in my life, and we had our brainstorm session and then took our first hike together to Nanny's Cabin, which is part of the experience that we offer in the book.
Chapter
that takes
9.
you to an old cabin ruins. That was our very first hike together, and at that point the project was launched.
Well, what makes the book unique is that, like I said, Tim's a real hiker. I get sidetracked along the way. I love the historical stuff. And so it takes us forever when I'm hiking. And he's the ones that I admire that I could never do. I've only done a couple of 14ers, and that's enough so I can say a couple. But that's it. But what makes it unique, there's it's between the two of us, it worked out really well. But there's a lot of great hiking books out there, wonderful hiking books, from easy to very, very complicated, and great history books, as you know. Lots of great history. This is the only one we know in this area that combines the hiking and the history. So they're easy trails, but there's things along the way. There's a lot better trails out there, but they don't have the history with it. Oh, this is a good example. We just popped this in here because this happened last fall. Tim wanted to do his 14er, tries to do at least one a year, going up to Mount Sherman, invited me, so we went up, camped out, got an early start, woke up, it was freezing cold, wind was blowing.
I think it was snowing on the summit.
Yeah,
Probably.
so huddled together over our lukewarm coffee, we said, let's not do it. So we started wandering, and we stumbled into this outhouse made, and I said, I recognize that from the mining museum. And if you notice, there is a coffee can that had the toilet paper in it. The door was missing, but it has a rubber gasket for the door. It was falling in the hole, so they welded a piece of rail onto it to keep it from falling into the hole. It's like, I remember that, so I had to come take a picture of this just to show him. It's like, I've seen this in the mining museum.
Yeah, that's
So
in
we
your
just-
mining museum right up there. I can see it through
right
the
next to
doorway
it.
here.
Yeah. All right, as we researched, did a lot of research in the internet, of course. There's all sorts of different versions in the library. It's easy to, I squirrel. I get into the library, I put up money for an hour and then end up spending the whole day and keep plugging the meter. But there's so many different versions of the same thing. So we had to decide which one's the most fun and put it in the book. So that was a decision we made. Here's an example of one of the hikes, chapter 19. Woodman to Ice Lake. There's a great trail, of course, the Santa Fe Trail that runs right through here, taking it all the way down to Fountain. But at Woodman Road, there's a trailhead, and you can take it from there up into the Air Force Academy, which I've taken many times and always end up digging farther and farther and looking into it. For the railroad bed, there's 8 flat cars lined up along the side that most people pass by. I think it's a fence or something. But it's those are flat cars. A little more digging, found out it's Denver and Rio Grande. My stepdad, the miner, he said the miners called it DNRGW, Denver and Rapidly Growing. Dangerous and rapidly growing worse.
Growing worse.
But anyway, there's those flat cars, which of course I'm in there looking at all the gear and the running gear and how they did it, and there's a river down below and why. And then behind it, there's this blue bucket or something. Does anybody else go by? Not us. We climbed over to see
See it
what
up
it
at
was.
the top of the photo
I
there.
see it at the top. So if you get a little closer, it's upside down, so I turned it right side up, and then it dawned on us what it was. This is an absolutely useless trivia that you find in this book.
But you know, that's not unusual. We've been on several trails where cars have been used as part of the berm, and then even filled with rocks for the support structure.
Right, so our long hikes always end up being shorter hikes with lots of explorations. Each one of the chapters tells about the history of the trail, kind of gives you an orientation, how to get there, fun things along the way. We have maps with turn-by-turn directions, but it has our personality. It's not a dry hiking book at all. It's probably very unprofessional.
Yeah, you'll see us in our personalities in the portions that we got engaged with, and Rocky's such the historian. I consider it sort of this way. Well, first of all, he's the serious one. I'm the goofy sidekick. But beyond that, if you use a sport analogy, Rocky is the play-by-play and I'm the color commentator. So I come along and say, look at that.
Which plays out in the book. We'll tell you about it in a little bit. But we've done all the hikes around here. Growing up here, we've done all the hikes. But once we found the ones with history along, we went back and did GPS points, and then we went back again to make sure it was correct. Last year we had to go back and check several of them because it's surprising how dynamic these trails are. You think they've been there for 100 years? They change. Yeah,
Well, and some change because of the pressure on the trails. For example, the paint mines. You know, I think with the pandemic and COVID, it's great to see people get out and enjoy the outdoors, but they just swarmed that. So they've had to redo the trail system through the paint mines to keep people on the trails, not climb the delicate formations. So we had to go back and rewalk it and rework the book, and that was updated just this last year.
So the left one, that's me at Nanny's cabin. mapping it. The right one is at, where's the right one?
That's the Monument Preserve.
Monument
Not,
Preserve.
not far from here.
If you haven't been there, it's great. It's a wonderful hike. Very easy, but the history of it, the rows of trees are fascinating. This is he's exploring a seed storage shed where they would take the seeds from the pine cone and store them through the winter. But the fun part is he's exploring a hook, just like that's hanging up there. It just brings the human side to it.
It was still there.
Yeah, it's still.
You know, that reminds
still
me
rusty.
that this is a local hike, easy access, moderate mileage and elevation gain and loss. But I remember talking to people about this one who live at the north end here and saying, oh, we love Monument Preserve. We hike there all the time. I said, well, are you aware of all the historic relics that are there to be found? No, we didn't know there was historic relics in there. Well, we show you those in the book.
All right, so when we map, we use 3 different software programs to map and GPS, and where we took the pictures, where the highlights were, and that's what it looked like. But because the first word of the book is easy, we took that and reduced it to this. Much easier. It doesn't show the terrain, but it gives you a step-by-step along the way. This is one of our chapters, that Red Rocks Group Trail. And
Show your little signage over there.
oh, and there's a little sign. Yeah, it's gone. But
Well,
This is-
we give you an idea about the difficulty level, the mileage, and any other special interests like multi-use and so forth.
yeah. So this is a chapter that, or the map that goes with that chapter. But as we talk about it, then you can reference back on the points. And we purposely are not selling this on digital format. We'd sell a lot more, but I don't want people walking around with their phone. Oh, I want a book in the hand. Probably lost 50% of our audience under 40 years old. Oh, I love this. Any guesses on where this is?
Shout it out. Any guesses? Some say New Mexico.
It looks
Gold
like
Camp Road?
what's that?
Is that Gold Camp Road?
Bingo. Yeah, have you hiked? I know there's going to be a lot of yeses here because I know this crowd. Have you been to Seven Bridges Trail?
Yes.
Yeah.
Seven
Mhm.
Bridges.
This is a trail between Helena Falls. You go above Helena Falls, the parking lot, and then you take the Gold Camp Road, the closed portion, along here to Seven Bridges Trail. I love this picture. You find it in a lot of old photographs, especially on hills. They did it on the incline, but they tilt the camera just a little bit. You can see the vertical on the water tank is tilted just a little, and that makes it look steeper. You see that on a lot of the old postcards. But as you're walking that path, and I know you've probably walked a dozen times, probably didn't know about the base of the water tower, which is right there. And we'll show you that on the map, where that base is, and tell you about it along the way, turn by turn. The trestle is long gone. A lot of them they filled in. This trestle is gone, but you can see behind there's a dirt road that comes along level, probably used maybe when they were building it. After the trestle's gone, people walk that dirt road. But the berms to the trestle are there, and you don't see them. They're covered in trees. But if you're interested in that sort of thing, this will tell you. You can stop, see where those berms are. When you go to Seven Bridges, and it kind of turns and goes back, that's what that road is, behind the trestle. Good eye. How did you guess that?
I recognize the curve.
Yeah.
I've never seen that picture before.
Oh, here's another one. Oh, above the incline. We say easy hikes. First paragraph in here says, it's not easy to get to. Don't go up there just for the hike. But if you're hiking up Bar Trail, then go explore. The exploration is easy. A lot of history. Anybody go up the incline back when it was running? Yeah, a lot of shaking heads there. Me too. Hated to see that go. I love that. Only climbed the incline a few times. Harder each time. But up on top, anybody know what that is? If you've been up there, there was a gift shop. They had great popcorn. Always smelled a lot of popcorn. The chipmunks liked it. And behind it, there was a restroom, concrete restroom, a little to the north of it. And this tank was by that restroom. It was a water tank. And you can kind of see the EKRY written on it. So the cog train was never up there, but they must have used a surplus tank or an old tank, hauled it up there to use it for a water supply. Again,
I have to tell you, this is a point of pride for me. I did do this by myself one day, following Rocky's instructions. So I knew that if it worked for me, it would work for readers. And so you can explore around there and find all kinds of stuff up. This is right when you reach the summit of the incline, or if you took the bar trail over. And so you can find all kinds of relics up there. Well, I found some things that he hadn't even found yet, and I had to come back and give him a report on that.
But there's a lot of stuff up there. Everybody just goes up, goes back down. But there's so much more. The old experimental forest up there. You want to talk about this part?
Well, we divided this into 4 sections, and so we can. You can explore that by something that interests you as you flip through the book. And so we have what we call the Manitou Springs area. We have north, south, east, and west. And north includes some exploration, some adventures in both Monument and Palmer Lake. And then we have Colorado Springs. And so what we've done is we've kind of circled Pikes Peak, if you will. That's why we say Pikes Peak region. The fourth one, did I catch the fourth one? We've got the north, south, east, west.
Colorado Springs proper.
Colorado Springs proper. You can't believe how much there is to explore just in downtown Colorado Springs.
Yeah, still a trail, still lots of pieces of
Yeah,
history.
there's all kinds of history to be discovered down there. So we have 4 different sections and about 20 plus explorations.
Yeah. To be fair, we tried to find something around Fountain and South. A lot of history out there. A lot of places to hike and explore. Nothing has history along the side of the trail down in that area. I talked to a couple of friends that lived down there, were into history. Couldn't find it either. So there's a glaring omission down here. So if anybody finds a trail with remnants along it without having to just walk along Main Street and point out history. So there is a gap there. We've expanded pretty far. All right, broken up into 4 sections. I know you miners know what that is, the Dynamite Shack. Yeah. So Manitou's our first bunch, just because it's right here on the mountains, lots of good trails. Everything up west. We could have written a whole book on Cripple Creek, of course, because there are trails with history everywhere you go. So we had to choose one. We chose the most popular, the Vindicator Valley Trail. But at least we talk about things that you can see around there in layman's terms, because that's all we are. But don't have signs pointing to it. What's this thing that we see? Not west. And then in Colorado Springs itself. Oh, gotta go back one. When General Palmer built Monument Park, and we tell about that, there's a lot of the park that most people don't know about. It's quite long, and a lot of history and old dates are carved and things we found there. Queen Palmer loved her formal English gardens, and she wanted a formal English garden. And this was the layout of it. That was in Monument Valley Park, right next to Bijou. You would think it's long gone. This is today. This is a picture today from satellite. Those paths are all there. When you're walking on them, you don't know it because it's just lawn all the way around and homeless guys. But, but all those patterns, that's a modern photo of what, can you imagine what her gardens would have been? I'm not selling it, am I?
Great historic relics along
Exactly.
the way.
It made it in there because it's a great story. Has anybody heard about the Pikes Peak Ocean to Ocean Highway? It's fascinating. This started in New York, went to LA, Chicago, San Francisco, built through Kansas first. Denver, Colorado got upset because the people were going by following the railroad on the Lincoln Highway. So they put the name Pikes Peak in there, and it came right through here. And so we take you on a piece of that, but it's a 10-mile stretch. It's better for biking. It's really between Falcon and Lyman. Just a straight stretch.
But great
But
bike
as-
ride, flat as a railroad bed would be. So.
Yeah, so it's more biking, but it's worth reading the story even if you don't get out there and hike it. And if you don't hike it, I don't blink it. All right.
Oh, you know what? I'll address this.
Yeah, this is your baby.
We wanted to, in many of the chapters, we wanted to give the readers, the explorers, a little something extra. So we have bonus at the end of many of our chapters, and we titled it A Step Farther. So you'll get to do 1 or 2 exploration hikes, and then we give you a little something else as well. And that kind of brought in a little bit of my storytelling. Rocky mentioned I'm an author, and so some of these were either found stories about a little bonus, or my experience when I went there, so kind of written in a storytelling way. So many of our chapters have a little something else to do as well, so we give you a bonus. And I think you're going to take them through This
Yeah,
bonus.
this was tied to Iron Mountain
Mhm.
in Manitou Springs. We take you up Red Mountain and also up Iron Mountain on those trails. Great trails. If you're really into it, you can do both of them in a day, but it's called easy, so one at a time. But yeah, this was Tim tied this in onto the end of Iron Mountain. You probably recognize the Penny Arcade in Manitou Springs and the boulder that's right outside of it, and a little sculpture. And if you grew up here, you climbed over that rock. Now your kids and grandkids climb over that rock. I still climb over it, just out of tradition when I'm there. But that rock has a history. This is the mineral spring behind Patsy's Candies. This pavilion is the spring that's inside the spa building.
Mhm.
And this rock, the top of it, is all that's exposed now. So as they were building, they kept building it up and adding to it and adding to it.
Wait a minute, is that all that you can see with that rock?
But there's more.
There's more.
Yeah,
But wait,
But wait, yeah. Yeah, so all that was lost to history. You wouldn't know that, but that was a famous boulder back then, I'm sure. And now it's just something that we climb over. That's a spa building behind, but it's long gone. But us being, we do get in trouble sometimes, but being nosy enough, that's what it looks like. You can see the shape of it looking back. If you look over the edge, it's still there. It's exposed. This is the Penny Arcade, and there's the spa building. There's the top of the rock. The rock is still visible underneath. All these years, I thought it was buried. But if you look over the edge, it's holding up the Penny Arcade. The river's it's still setting in the river,
yeah.
just the way it was 100 years ago.
Mhm.
Again, totally worthless information, but so much fun. It's entertaining. All right. That's it. That's our book. Thank you.
To talk a little bit, Joe, about use of this, we have kind of described it ourselves as sort of a historic relic scavenger hunt. So it's great for school children, couples, grandkids, get them out into the wilderness. And we have we have some appendages on the end of it. For example, hiking with your senses. So get the kids out there, have them smell the ponderosa pine, get their nose right up to that bark and say, what does that smell like to you? Some say vanilla, some say butterscotch, but we get the kids' senses involved. And then we also tell you how to build a responsible day pack. But I think what's fun about this, and that it is easy hikes, we always take you to some kind of destination or some kind of historic relic along the way. So it really is like connecting the dots on a scavenger hunt. So great for families and couples and grandkids.
Quite easy. We rank them 1 to 5
Mhm.
trees, I think. But the easier ones, many are accessible. We don't say accessible in here, particularly if it's a 1. Shook's Run. If you haven't been through Shook's Run, that's a great trail up and down there. But there's a lot of stuff on the side that you don't see. That's also very accessible.
So it's certainly been our privilege to be here. I guess they've given us a few minutes for some questions, if anyone has a question or two before we conclude.
Any questions?
What about the ice cave up in Palmer Lake? Is that worth the trip?
He would know that one.
It is certainly worth a trip. They charge $5 now for parking below the reservoirs to get up to Ice Cave. Now, there are lots of interesting hikes that might have been included, but our criteria for putting our content together is that our hikes would always be attached to historic relics. So Ice Cave, I'm sure, has a wonderful history. The number of times I've been up there, I haven't seen evidence of man's imprint on the environment, from pioneer days, frontier days forward. So it's a great hike, Ice Cave Creek, but it's not tied to historic relics. Now, if you go way up there, it's an 11-mile round-trip hike to a plane crash. Now, that would be interesting, but that wouldn't fit the criteria for easy hikes for us either. But a good question. Ice Cave is a nice hike.
We had a lecture about the railroads that came through around Air Force Academy, and the gentleman talked about his carvings on the
Jack Anthony's.
top. Yeah, I just wondered if you knew about that, if you found that.
About the where down south towards it, to
The
Ice Lake.
railroads sound like there were 2 of them that ran.
Oh, there were. Ran parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the what's it, Denver Rio Grande and was it Santa Fe, I think. So it's Santa Fe Trail. They took out the Santa Fe rails and now they're doing the DNRG rails, which are now Union Pacific, both directions. In south part of Air Force Academy, there used to be a big U-turn there, where they would use helper engines with steam engines going over the mountains to help.
Oh, there's a little town that was in between the lines.
Husted. Yeah, Husted was up there.
And
And I think there's a marker still, but you can still see pieces of the old signal. One of the worst steam train wrecks was in South Air Force Academy, right in that area.
Well, explain too, Rocky, how you can still see evidence of the two trains. They were competing trains in Palmer Lake today.
Yeah, up on top that there, again, they had a place to park the helper engines. And once you go past Palmer Lake and turn off where you go to 105, you can see the place there where they used to put the helper engines to get them over the top.
But one line was on one side of the lake and one side on the other side of the lake.
Oh, yeah, they were opposite of the lake.
And so the one is now the Santa Fe Trail that you can walk and bike on, and the other line is still used to this day.
Great pictures out there. Any other questions, suggestions, hikes?
We have your book and we liked it. Thank you. We've done some of that.
Oh, you have?
thank you.
Well, thank you. Where did you pick it up at?
My husband ordered it online. Thank you. And we'll take the littles, the grandchildren, on some milk walks and us.
Good.
Glad to hear
Yeah,
that.
good for grandkids.
Tim, are you still affiliated with Emerald Valley Ranch?
I retired a couple of seasons ago. I worked 6 years at the hotel, year-round, as a driver, and then worked at Emerald Valley Ranch and Cloud Camp and their fish camp, which is out past Lake George. So found it a very enjoyable experience. Hey, if I could have a job that got me out daily into the fresh air in the wilderness, I would love that. But I've since left there.
It's perfect for an author because he's all by himself up there.
Well, everything closed with COVID. The hotel was even closed completely. You can imagine the loss of income, revenue from that. But at that time, my job ceased, and I just didn't come back again. It turned out I like hiking for historic relics too much to go back to work again.
That was one of my favorite hikes, was from Cloud Camp on top of Cheyenne Mountain down to where Old Stage met Gold Camp Road, which is pretty close to where that is. So we would have people stay at this lodge, and then they'd hike down to that a few miles, and I love that.
We're often asked what is our favorite hike in the book, and you mentioned Emerald Valley Ranch. That's one of my favorite hikes, is the pipeline trail there. You take 371 down towards the ranch, but stop earlier than that, of course. And pipeline trails are wonderful because they're using gravity to bring the water down. That was Penrose who was bringing the water down from Rosemont Reservoir all the way to the hotel for the fountains and the golf course. But because it's on a pipeline, it's a very moderate trail, and all kinds of history all along there. You can see what was actually, it looks like a flat piece of concrete dated 1937, but it's actually a cube of concrete, because after they put the pipe in there, under pressure, the pipe started to raise up out of the ground. So I think I counted 17 of these cubes to hold the pipe down. So that's really interesting.
There's also a manhole way up in the middle of the mountains, but we know it follows the pipe. So of course we had to look down into the manhole, and there was a way to siphon water from that. It came from the Rosemont Reservoir, down to the golf courses. But at the head of this little canyon was this manhole, and out the side of it was a big pipe that connected to it. So they could open the valve and short-stop the water that was going to the Broadmoor and come into that valley. So I got onto the map, and it was Spencer Penrose that owned Emerald Valley Ranch, and he's the one that had the Broadmoor. So we followed the valley down. That valley went to his little private lake down at Emerald Valley.
If you're familiar with that, there's 2 ponds there that they stock for the guests, so he could bring water down to those ponds.
So if you're Spencer Penrose and you want water in your lakes, you've got it. You go out and short-stop it from the city supply. Yeah. Yes, ma'am, first.
What are the lengths mile-wise of your trails?
Shortest one's a little over a mile. Longest one is about 5 to 6 miles. But we rank it at the beginning. We have little sections on there. Of course, you can turn around any place, but it takes you along to the history of it. Of course, the worst one is, like I said, Mount Manitou Incline. If you don't count that, then it's easy. But that's the longest one.
But we deliberately branded it this way, easy hikes, and I think you'll find for the most part they fit that category. But above the incline, the only exception.
my idea. He's too harsh a hiker. Yes, sir.
I was a trustee with the Colorado Mountain Club for many years.
Oh,
Were you
okay.
ever involved with them and share experiences or work with them for anything?
No, haven't been involved with them. I know some people that were in it. When I was guiding hikes, I guided a couple that were in their 80s that hiked every 14er when they were in their 20s. That was way before there was trails.
Yeah,
That was
that would
quite
have been
an
a
honor.
challenge.
And they're at the beginning of the.
I climbed most of them, but with the Colorado Mountain Club, you always have somebody to go with.
Right.
Yeah,
And there's
You
several.
go with
several
3
groups
people,
out there.
one for the victim, one to stay with the victim, and one to go get help.
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been hiking with Saturday nights lately, and that's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
a lot of hikers, and some of them are
But I
involved.
would encourage you to reach out to Colorado Mountain Club. Maybe
Thank
you could
you.
do some things together. Maybe they
Yeah.
would, I'm sure they would help you sell your book in their bookstore up in Golden.
Yeah.
They would be
Oh, thank
glad. Yeah, they would be glad to have this book.
We try to network as much as we can. We're friends with John Anderson, and we've,
Oh, John Wesley Anderson?
yeah,
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he got us into REI.
yeah. He opened the door for REI.
Thank you, John. Yeah.
Colorado Mountain Club would love to have this in
Well, thank you for the
their
suggestion.
library up there to sell.
Okay, we appreciate that.
I
Thank you.
appreciate the tip.
Yeah, yeah, up in Golden.
You get a commission.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Well,
give me
good.
a-
One more here? How are we doing time-wise?
Well, you're fine.
We're fine? Okay, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Time
It's
to
just
do
4 to
signing.
5, we usually go an hour. Have you looked at the relics on the McNeil Trail up on Cheyenne Mountain, right by the cantina?
Yeah.
Well, it's not, the relics aren't by the cantina, but,
Yes,
Is
yes.
it the pump?
right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great old pump. And that was on that trail. McNeil is where I would take them from Cloud Camp down to the General Valley. So I hiked McNeil just about daily. Not as far as the pump, but
Yeah.
that was a daily thing. I did it for 5 years. I was 5 years younger when I left than when I started. But that's a fascinating pump. There's a natural spring there, and there's an old pump. I think it's dated 1909, and it's on wheels like it used to be a cart, but they must have brought it up on burro because everything along the pipeline was built by burro. And it's set in the side of the hill, and then there's a pipeline running about 1.5 miles, I believe, that runs up to the old Cheyenne Mountain Lodge. And the pipeline is still there. That's one of 3 pumps like that. One of them was on the summit of Pikes Peak, and one part way up Pikes Peak. When they put the new railroad in, the new coal train up, they pulled one of those old pumps off, gave it to, what's the castle in Manitou? Miramont. And they didn't want they kept part of it, but not the other part, turned it into a fountain. And that's a new addition as of about 2 years ago.
It's in their garden.
Yeah, if you go up to Miramont Castle, up behind in the wall, it looks like this pump, but it's just circulating. It's a great job, and that came from Pikes Peak, and it's the same model as the pump that's on General Valley.
So folks, we're going to wrap up the questions now to give them time to sign books if anybody else would like to talk to them a little bit after we're done here.
That's perfect.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.